Say you play the lottery and you win the Mega Millions $1 billion lottery prize. So how much money are you going to get from that, depending on like which thing that you take, and then also what do you actually do if you were to ever actually win the lottery? I think this is actually something that should be covered. So the Mega Millions jackpot jumped to an estimated 1.05 billion for its next drawing on Tuesday, tying the lottery's mark for its fourth largest prize ever, though the winner could receive less than half that amount after paying required taxes. So the winning ticket holder, who faces odds of 1 in 302.6 million, has the option to receive the 1.05 billion in 30 annual payments over 29 years, or as an upfront lump sum of 527.9 million. Now, what people need to understand is that even though it says that you're going to get like the 30 annual payments over the 29 years or whatever, right? Because the first year that you take it, blah blah blah, and you think that you're going to get the full 1.5 billion, you're really not, because your purchasing power is decreasing over time. So the like what you could do with that money now is very different and a lot less than in the future. Not to mention, there's inflation. Not to mention, there's taxes that you're going to have to keep paying every single year, no matter what. So you're going to like maintain this high tax bracket for the next 29 years. And another thing is that what people don't understand is that typically when you get these annual payments, they're not equal annual payments. So for example, let's say that you won like 100 million and you're going to get paid for the next 10 years, right? Like you're going to get like 10 annual payments for the next 10 years. They're not going to give you 10 million every single year, right? It might be like 2 million first year, 5 million, then 7 million, then 15 million, then 20 million, etc. So like it's going to like scale up like that to where like the last 3 years is where like the massive amounts of money are going to actually come in. So that's something to really think about too, because you're not actually going to be getting like a, well, I mean, it's no matter what, it's going to be crazy amounts of money, but your perceived amount of money that's coming in would be a lot different, right? You're not going to be getting like 100 million every year or like 50 million every year or whatever it would actually be if it were to be like evenly done, right? So that's something to think about too. Another thing is, if you were to take the lump sum, right, that's basically half of the money gone right then and there. Then you're going to get 24% federal tax withholding, right, which would reduce the lump sum to $401.2 million. And you got a federal marginal tax rate as high as 37%. So when it comes down to tax time, you're going to have to bump how much you're actually going to be paying for the tax rate. So that's like another basically nearly 100 million, but it's basically 70, like 70 million extra that you're going to have to pay on top of that. Then, depending on the state, right, you're going to have to pay state taxes as well. Now, it might also be that you might have to pay also city taxes and county taxes. Again, that really like varies a lot. So like the amount of money that you're actually going to get is so much less than what they say. Like I mean, now this isn't going to be like a correct number, but it's basically like you like lose like 70% of the money without even getting it first. Like it's pretty sad when you really think about it. Now, if you were to ever win, I discovered or stumbled upon this Reddit post that like really broke it down very well as to what you should do if you were to ever actually win the lottery, right? So this is by Blake Class on Reddit 9 years ago, but this is still really good. Congratulations, you just won millions of dollars in the lottery. That's great. Now you're effed. No, really, you are. You're effed. If you just want to skip the biographical tales of woe of some of the math tax protagonists, skip on down to the next comment to see what to do in the event you win the lottery. You see, it's something of an open secret that winners of obnoxiously large jackpots tend to end up badly with alarming regulatory. Not the $1 million winners, but anyone in the nine-figure range is at high risk. Eight figures, pretty likely to be screwed. Seven figures, yep, painful. Perhaps this is a consequence of the sample. The demographics of lottery players might be exactly the wrong people to win large sums of money. Or perhaps money is the root of all evil. Either way, you're going to have to be careful. Don't believe me? Consider this. Large jackpot winners face double digit multiples of probability versus the general population to be the victim of number 1, homicide, something like 20 times more likely. 2, drug overdose. 3, bankruptcy, and how's that for irony? 4, kidnapping, and triple digit multiples of probability versus the general population rate to be 1, convicted of drunk driving. 2, the victim of homicide at the hands of a family member. 120 times more likely in this case. Ain't love grand? 3, a defendant in civil lawsuit, which, by the way, the most recent like $2 billion lottery winner is dealing with a lawsuit. Number 4, a defendant in felony criminal proceedings. Believe it or not, your biggest enemy if you suddenly become possessed of large sums of money is you. At least you will have the consolation of meeting your fate by your own hand. But if you can't manage it on your own, don't worry, there are any number of willing participants ready to help you start your vicious downward spiral for you. Mind you, many of these will be friends, friendly neighbors, or family. Often they won't even have evil intentions, but as I'm sure you know, that makes little difference in the end. Most aren't evil, most aren't malicious, some are, none are good for you. So Jack Whittaker, a Johnny Cash-attired West Virginia native, is the poster boy for the dangers of a lump sum award. In 2002, Mr. Whittaker, 55 years old at the time, won what was also at the time the largest single award jackpot in U.S. history, $315 million. At the time, he planned to live as if nothing had changed, or so he said. He was remarkably modest and decent before the jackpot, and his ship sure came in, right? Wrong. Mr. Whittaker became the subject of a number of personal challenges escalating into personal tragedies, complicated by a number of legal troubles. Whittaker wasn't a typical lottery winner either. His net worth at the time of his winnings was in excess of $15 million, owing to his ownership of a successful contracting firm in West Virginia. His claim to want to live as if nothing had changed actually seemed plausible. He should have been well equipped for wealth. He was already quite wealthy. After all, by all accounts, he was somewhat modest, low profile, generous, and good-natured. He should have coasted off into the sunset. Yeah, not exactly. Whittaker took the all-cash option, $170 million, instead of the annuity option, and took possession of $114 million in cash after $56 million in taxes. After that, things went south. Whittaker quickly became the subject of a number of financial stalkers who would lurk at his regular breakfast hideout and accost him with suggestions for how to spend his money. They were unemployed. No, an interview tomorrow morning wasn't good enough. They needed cash now. Perhaps they had a surefire business plan. Their daughter had cancer. A niece needed dialysis. Needless to say, Whittaker stopped going to his breakfast haunt. Eventually, they began ringing his doorbell. Sometimes in the early morning, before long, he was paying off duty deputies to protect his family. He was accused of being heartless, cold, stingy. Letters poured in, children with cancer, diabetes, MS, you name it. He hired 3 people to sort the mail, a detective to filter out the false claims, and the con men and woman was retained. Brenda, the clerk who had sold Whittaker the ticket, was a victim of collateral damage. Whittaker had written her a check for $44,000 and bought her house, but she was by no means a millionaire. Rumors that the state routinely paid the clerk who had sold the ticket 10% of the jackpot winnings hounded her. She was followed home from work, threatened, and assaulted. Whittaker's car was twice broken into by trusted acquaintances who watched him leave large amounts of cash in it. $500,000 and $200,000 were stolen in 2 separate instances. The thieves spiked Whittaker's drink with prescription drugs in the first instance. The second incident was the handiwork of his granddaughter's friends, who had been probing the girl for details on Whittaker's cash for weeks, and even Whittaker's good faith generosity was questioned. When he offered $10,000 to improve the city's water park so that it was more handicap accessible, locals complained that he spent more money at the strip club, and amusingly, this was true. Which, by the way, I I don't really understand the spending money of like strippers personally. Whitaker invested quite a bit in his own business, tripled the number of people his business employed, making him one of the larger employers in the area, and eventually had given away $14 million to charity through a foundation he set up for the purpose. This is, of course, what you are supposed to do: set up a foundation. Be careful about your charity giving. It made no difference in the end. To top it all off, Whitaker had been accused of ruining a number of marriages. His money made other men look inferior. They said wherever he went in the small Virginia town, he called home. Resentment grew quickly and festered. Whitaker paid 4 settlements related to this sort of claim. Yes, you read that right, 4. His family and their immediate circle were quickly the victims of odds-defying numbers of overdoses, emergency room visits, and even fatalities. His granddaughter, the 18-year-old Brandy, who Whitaker had been giving a $2,100 per week allowance, was found dead after having been missing for several weeks. Her death was apparently from a drug overdose, but Whitaker suspected foul play. Her body had been wrapped in a tarp and hidden behind a rusted-out van. Her 17-year-old boyfriend had expired 3 months earlier in Whitaker's vacation house, also from an overdose, and some of his friends had robbed the house after his overdose, stepping over his body to make their escape, and then returning for more before stepping over his body again to leave. His parents sued for wrongful death, claiming that Whitaker's loose purse strings contributed to their son's death, and amazingly, juries are prone to award damages in cases such as these, and Whitaker settled again. Even before the deaths, the local and state police had taken a special interest in Whitaker after his newfound fame. He was arrested for minor and less minor offenses many times after his winnings, despite having had a nearly spotless record before the award. Whitaker's high profile could have helped him much in this regard. In 18 months, Whitaker had been cited for over 250 violations, ranging from broken tail lights on every one of his 5 new cars, to improper display of renewal stickers, a lawsuit charging various police organizations with harassment went nowhere, and Whitaker was hit with court costs instead. Whitaker's wife filed for divorce and in the process froze a number of his assets and the accounts of his operating companies. Caesars in Atlantic City sued him for $1.5 million to cover bounced checks caused by the asset freeze, and today Whitaker is badly in debt and bankruptcy looms large in his future, but hey, that's just one example, right? Wrong. Nearly one-third of multi-million-dollar jackpot winners eventually declare bankruptcy. Some end up worse. To give you just a taste of the possibilities, consider the fates of Billy Bob Harrow Jr., 31 million, Texas, 1997. As of 1999, committed, offing himself, right, in the wake of incessant requests for money from friends and family. Winning the lottery is the worst thing that ever happened to me, I guess was a quote that he had. William something, got 16.2 million. Pennsylvania, 1988. In 1989, brother hires a contract murderer to kill him and his sixth wife. Landlady sued for a portion of the jackpot. Convicted of assault for firing a gun at a debt collector. Declared bankruptcy, dead in 2006. Evelyn Adams, 5.4 million. Won twice, 1985, 1986 as of 2001. Poor and living in a trailer, gave away and gambled most of her fortune. Suzanne Mullins, 4.2 million. Virginia, 1993 as of 2004, no assets left. Shafik Maj, 6.7 million. Arizona, 1988 as of 2005, declared bankruptcy. Thomas Strong, 3 million. Texas, 1993 as of 2006, died in a shootout with police. Victoria Zell, 11 million. 2001, Minnesota, as of 2006, broke, serving 7 years sentence for vehicular manslaughter. Karen Cohen, 1 million. Illinois, 1984, as of 2000, filed for bankruptcy. As of 2006, sentenced to 22 months for lying to federal bankruptcy court. Jeffrey Dampler, 20 million. 1996, as of 2006, kidnapped and murdered by own sister-in-law. And again, just keeps on going, right? So, what do you do if you're unlucky enough to win the lottery? This is the absolutely most important thing you can do right away. Nothing. Yes, nothing. Do not declare yourself the winner yet. Do not tell anyone. The urge is going to be nearly irresistible. Resist it. Trust me. Number one, immediately retain an attorney. Get a partner from a larger national firm. Don't let them pawn off junior partners or associates on you. They might try. All law firms might, but insist instead that your lead be a partner who has been with the firm for a while. Do not use your local attorney. Yes, I mean your long standing family attorney who did your mother's will. Do not use the guy who fought your dry cleaner bill. Do not use the guy you have trusted your entire life because of his long and faithful service to your family. In fact, do not use any firm that has any connection to family or friends or community. Trust me, this is bad. You want someone who has never heard of you, any of your friends, or any member of your family. Go to the closest big city and walk into the one of the national firms asking for one of the trust and estates partners you have previously looked up on, I guess, martindale.com, whatever that is, from one of the largest 50 firms in the United States which has an office near you. You can look up attorneys by practice area and firm on Martindale. Oh, okay, that's interesting. 2. Decide to take the lump sum. Most lotteries pay a really pathetic rate for the annuity. It usually hovers around 4.5% annual return or less, depending. I think it's actually like 3% now for the annuities. So it's really bad. Like, to put into perspective, like, depending on the bank account that you have right now, you could get like a 4.6% return just keeping that in cash, right? But you could also just put these in like very, very safe investments, like very safe investments, where you could pretty much double your money like every 10 years. So it doesn't take much to do better than this. And if you have the money already in cash, rather than leaving it in the hands of the state, you can pull from the capital whenever you like. If you take the annuity, you won't have access to that cash. That could be good, it could be bad. It's probably bad unless you have a very addictive personality. If you need an allowance managed by the state, it is because you didn't listen to point number one above. Why not let the state just handle it for you and give your allowance? Many state lotteries pay your allowance, the annuity option, by buying U.S. Treasury instruments and running the interest payments through their bureaucracy before sending it to you, along with a hunk of the principal every month. You will not be beating inflation by much, if at all. There's no reason you couldn't do this yourself if a low single digit return is acceptable to you. You aren't going to get even remotely the amount of the actual jackpot. Take our old friend, Mr. Whittaker. Using Whittaker is a good model both because of the reminder of his ignominious decline and the fact that his winning ticket was one of the larger ones on record. If his situation looks less than stellar to you, you might have a better perspective on how large your winnings aren't. Whittaker's jackpot was 315 million. He selected the lump sum cash upfront option, which knocked off 145 million, or 46% of the total, leaving him with 170 million. That was then subject to withholding for taxes of 56 million, 33%, leaving him with $114 million. In general, you should expect to get about half of the original jackpot if you elect a lump sum, maybe better, it depends. After that, you should expect to lose around 33% of your already pruned figure to state and federal taxes, and your mileage may vary, particularly if you live in a state with aggressive taxation schemes like New York. 3. Decide right now how much you plan to give to family and friends. Now, this really shouldn't be more than 20% or so. Figure it out right now. Pick your number. Tell your lawyer. That's it. Don't change it. 20% of 114 million is 22.8 million. That leaves you with 91.2 million. Do not consult with family when deciding how much to give to family. You are going to get advice that is badly tainted by conflict of interest in. If other family members find out that Aunt Flo was consulted and they weren't, you will never hear the end of it. Neither will Aunt Flo. This might later form the basis for an allegation that Aunt Flo unduly influenced you, and a lawsuit might magically appear on this basis. No, I'm not kidding. I know of one circumstance related to a business windfall, not a lottery, where the plaintiffs won this case. Do not give anyone cash ever, period. Just don't. Do not buy them houses. Do not buy them cars. Tell your attorney that you want to provide for your family and that you want to set up a series of trusts for them that will total 20% of your after tax winnings. Tell him you want the trust empowered to fund higher education, some help, not a total purchase of their first home, some provision for weddings and the like, whatever. Do not put yourself in the position of handing out cash. Once you do, if you stop, you'll be accused of being a heartless bastard, or, you know what, trust me, it won't go well. It'd be easy to lose perspective. It is now the duty of your friends, family, relatives, hangers on, and their inner circle to skew your perspective, and they take this job quite seriously. Setting up a trust, a managed fund for your family that is in the double digit millions is amazingly generous. You need never have trouble sleeping because you didn't lend Uncle Jerry $20,000 in small denomination unmarked bills to start his chain of deep fried peanut butter pancake restaurants. Your attorney will have a number of good ideas how to parse this wealth out without turning your siblings, spouse, children, grandchildren, cousins, waitresses into the latest Paris Hilton. 4. You will be encouraged to hire an investment manager. Considerable pressure will be applied. Don't. Investment managers charge fees, usually a percentage of assets. Consider this. If they charge 1%, which is low, I doubt you could find this deal. Actually, they have to beat the market by 1% every year just to break even with a general market index fund. It is not worth it. And you don't need the extra return or the extra risk. Go for the index fund instead if you must invest in stocks. This is a hard road to follow. They will come recommended by friends. They will come recommended by family. They will be your second cousin on your mother's side. Investment managers will sound smart. They will have lots of cool acronyms. They will have nice PowerPoint presentations. They might pay for your shrimp cocktail lunch at TGI Fridays while reminding you how poor their side of the family is. They live for this stuff. You should smile, thank them for their time, and then tell them you will get back to them next week. Don't sign anything. Don't write it on a cocktail napkin. Lottery lawsuit cases have been won and lost over drunkenly scrawled cocktail napkin addition and subtraction figures with lots of zeros on them. Never call them back. Trust me, you will thank me later. This tactic, smiling, thanking people for their time, and promising to get back to people, is going to have to become familiar. You have to learn to say no gently without saying the word no. It sounds underhanded. Sneaky. It is. And as part of your new survival strategy, I mean the word survival quite literally. Get all this figured out before you claim your winnings. They aren't going anywhere. Just relax. 5. If you elect to be more global about your paranoia, use between 20% and 33% of what you have not decided to commit to a family fund immediately to purchase a combination of longer-term U.S. Treasuries. 5 or 10-year are a good idea, and perhaps even another G7 Treasury instrument. This is your safety net. You will be protected from yourself. You're going to be really tempted to start being a big investor. You're going to be convinced that you can double your money in Vegas with your awesome roulette system by funding your friend's amazing idea to sell lemming dung, buying land for oil drilling, by shorting the North Pole ice market. This all sounds tempting because even if I lose it all, I still have XX million dollars left. Anyone could live on that comfortably for the rest of their life. Yeah, except for the 33% of everyone who won the lottery. You're not going to double your money, so cool it. Let me say that again. You're not going to double your money, so cool it, right? Now you get around 3.5% on the 10-year U.S. Treasury, which I think right now is like way higher. With 18.2 million, 20% of 91.2 mil after your absurdly generous family gift invested in those will pull down $638,400 per year. If everything else blows up, you still have that, and you will be in the top 1% of income in the United States. So how about you not F with it, eh? And that's income that is damn safe. If we get to the point where the United States defaults on those instruments, we are in far worse shape than worrying about money. If you are really paranoid, you might consider picking another G7 or otherwise mainstream country other than the US, according to where you want to live if the United States dissolves into anarchy or Britney Spears is elected to the United States Senate. Put some fraction in something like Swiss government bonds at 3%. If the Swiss stop paying on their government debt, well, then you know money really means nothing anymore on the globe anymore. I'd study small field sustainable agriculture if you think this is a possibility. You might have to start feeding yourself. 6. That leaves, say, 80% of the 91.2 million or 72.9 million. Here is where things start to get less clear. Personally, I think you should dump half of this or 36.4 million into a boring S&P 500 index fund. Find something with low fees. You're going to be constantly tempted to retain sophisticated advisors who charge nominal fees. Don't, period. Even if you lose every other dime, you have $638,400 per year you didn't have before that will keep coming in until the United States falls into chaos. F advisors and their fees. Instead, drop your 36.4 million in the market in a low fee vehicle. Unless we have an unprecedented downturn, the likes of which the United States has never seen, should return around 7% or so over the next 10 years. And you should expect to touch not even a dime of this money for the 10 or 15 or even 20 years. In 20 years, 36.4 million could easily become 115 million. 7. So you have put a safety net in place. You have provided for your family beyond your wildest dreams, and you still have 36.4 million in cash. You know you'll be getting $638,400 per year unless the Capitol building is burning. You don't ever need to give anyone you care about cash since they are provided for generously and responsibly and can't blow it in Vegas. And you have a huge nest egg that is growing at market rates. Given the recent okay, let's say. What now? Whatever you want, go ahead and burn through 36.4 million on hookers and blow if you want. You've got more security than 99% of the country. A lot of it is in trust, so even if you are sued, your family will live well and progress across generations. If your lawyer is worth his salt, which I bet he is, then you'll be insulated from most lawsuits anyhow. Buy a nice house or two. Make sure they aren't stupid investments though. Go ahead and be an angel investor and fund some stardust, but refuse to do it for anyone you know. Friends and money, oil and water, Michael Corleone or Corleone. Play, have fun. You earned it by putting together the shoe sizes of your whole family on one ticket and winning the jackpot. So I thought this was like a really good like post and like really good at like breaking down the potential downfalls of actually winning the lottery. Now, personally, if I were to ever win the lottery to this massive size, right, I would put money in a way, I will set things up in a way where, like, basically things are in trust and basically be set up to be like invested into the S&P 500 or something very similar to the S&P 500 where technically I wouldn't be giving people money, but what I would be doing is like setting up these trusts where everyone that I care about will be getting like a paycheck from those trusts that they don't got to worry about, right? So depending on like the returns or how much money he's getting, let's just say like they will get like 2K, 4K, 10K, 20K a month from this trust that, no one can really access, but it's just like basically like a like basically you just like exist and you get like a check in the mail kind of thing, right? But you don't really got to worry about it, all that kind of stuff. Because also you got to keep in mind too, when you give people money, they're going to be taxed like heavily. Like they will have to pay tax on that, and that is a very like it's almost like a pointless thing. It's like what you want to give someone money so that they pay taxes on the money that you give them, so they actually have less money than what you want to give them, right? So if you really want to like kind of take care of your family, because sometimes maybe you got to protect your family from themselves, depending on their personality or whatever. Like, do the whole trust thing so that they always have income coming in. Same thing for yourself, set that up. And then also, maybe if you really wanted to, just give like a certain amount to each person and just be like, hey, this is it, no more, right? That's the way that I would go about it, just because there's just so many people who are not really good with money or like not good with like saving money, not good at like investing money. So if you're able to set it up in a way that like no matter what, money is always coming in for everyone that you care about. Because like this is the thing. You could give someone like let's say that you win like a massive lottery and you give someone that you care about like $2 million, right? Let's say that you give that to your mom or dad or something, right? How fast are they going to blow through that money? You don't know. Like you literally don't know. But let's say that you were to give them like a good amount of money, but also have something set up that they're just constantly getting money and you don't got to worry about it, right? And they don't got to think about it too. So you could technically you can set up in a way where you can pretty much retire anyone that you care about financially speaking, like where like the bare minimum they could cover all of their living expenses, insurance, all that kind of stuff, gas, groceries, so that they just don't got to worry about that. Because I think that would just like lift off like so much weight from people's shoulders, even more so than just like basically just blatantly giving people crazy amounts of money. It's like, what if I were like just have it so that you just never worry about money? It's just my kind of like line of thinking. Like a small, like a little bit of lump sum for like family members that you really care about, and then have like automated income coming in that they don't really touch. It's just constantly coming their way. And you could just basically like restructure it however you want to because it's all in trust that you own. That's the way that I would view it.